Time to see what's making headlines internationally, starting with yesterday's big speech from Russian President Vladimir Putin. And Alison, a surprise video presentation in that speech, wasn't there?
That's right, Will. This was about new weapons that Russia has that can allegedly reach anywhere in the world. It was a pretty impressive presentation with videos showing these missiles aimed at Florida, whereas we know Donald Trump has his residence at Mar-a-Lago. It's garnered Putin a spot on the front pages of papers all across the world today. I pulled out the Russian paper Vedomosti. They say Putin's weapons demonstration was really the big sensation of his speech, and Vedomosti says it's really believed to have been aimed at the West. As Putin himself said during his presentation, nobody listened to us before. Well, listen now. Russia's government-controlled media probably won't surprise you. They're celebrating this show of force, which they imagine has been very successful. If you take a look at this cartoon from the state-run press agency Sputnik, you can see Western leaders are watching his speech and cowering in fear, and there you can recognize who I believe to be French President Emmanuel Macron, Angela Merkel, and then front and center, the U.S. President Donald Trump.
And on that note, how have the U.S. media been reacting?
Sort of mixed reactions. There are some kind of writing it off as just Putin posturing and flexing his muscles ahead of this month's election. The New York Times mentions this possibility, although they are taking the announcement quite seriously. They say in this article that this new technology announced by Russia is designed specifically to target the United States' weaknesses. The New York Times writes that U.S. defense systems are based on the assumption, actually, that enemy missiles fly very high and can be destroyed well before they reach their targets. Russia's new weapons, though, if they do exist, they travel very low and fast and far, particularly those underwater nuclear torpedoes.
Now, one of Vladimir Putin's friends making a lot of headlines over in Italy.
That's right. This is Silvio Berlusconi, Italy's former prime minister. He's hoping his center-right coalition will come out on top on this Sunday's election. He's given an exclusive interview to the right-wing Italian paper Libero ahead of the election. He's promising to lower taxes, increase retirement pensions, and expel all illegal immigrants. Meanwhile, the more center-left paper, Corriere della Sera, has a front-page cartoon reminding us of some of the more unsavory aspects of Berlusconi's past. We can see this woman is saying, Berlusconi has promised to help the elderly. And this man is saying, well, it's been so long, even his Ogleteen girls are old now. Now, that's a reference to the harem of women who were called the Ogleteen girls who attended his famous bunga bunga parties, and also a reference just to the fact that Berlusconi is still around after all this time.
And also becoming elderly himself. Now, he's one of the central players in this election, but Italy's prime minister also sounding the alarm about some of the other parties that are running.
Right, and one of them is the Five Star Movement, this anti-establishment movement, which according to polls is likely to get the largest share of the vote as a single party, although they're not taking part in any coalitions. There's also the populist party La Liga, the League, formerly called the Northern League, that's part of Berlusconi's coalition. They're fiercely anti-immigrant. They've been blamed for a lot of the violence we've seen against immigrants in recent weeks. You might remember there was a man who shot at some African migrants. Prime Minister Paolo Gentiloni warns that Italy is really in danger with this election of taking the same populist path as the United States, and he calls it the most important Italian election in decades. There's actually one American, Will, who will be very closely following this Italian election, and that is Steve Bannon. You might remember him. He's Donald Trump's former advisor. The Guardian is one of several papers reporting that he's in Rome as of yesterday to give his support to that populist party, La Liga, and its leader, Matteo Salvini. He is anti-immigrant and anti-EU, and he actually met Donald Trump back before he was elected. You can imagine they have quite a bit in common. Bannon is hoping that Italy will really make his globalist, populist dreams come true on Sunday.
And finally, if you don't want the drama at the ballot box, there's another option this weekend. The Oscars taking place in Los Angeles.
That's right, the 90th Academy Awards, and one of the favorites for Best Picture is Three Billboards, starring Frances McDormand. It's about a mother who rents billboards to call attention to the unsolved murder of her daughter. And in recent months, we've seen quite a few examples, actually, of people being inspired by this way of sending messages, and they've sent messages of their own. Most recently, we can see in LA, an artist has put up a series of billboards calling out Hollywood for not taking action sooner against sexual assault. This work is actually done by a right-wing artist, Sabo, who basically says left-wing actors and actresses are complicit and shouldn't be preaching during their acceptance speeches on Sunday. One of those billboards reads, "Name names or shut up." It's not the only Oscars-inspired art, though, that we've been seeing on the streets of LA recently. Two left-wing artists have installed a golden statue of Harvey Weinstein, sitting in a robe. You can see him there on a casting couch in gold. And it's sort of hard to see, but he's actually clutching an Oscar statue there, which is sort of famously a phallic shape down by his groin. One of the artists who made this piece is actually the same one who was responsible for all of those naked Donald Trump statues you might remember back after the election. So a possible taste of what's to come on Sunday. We'll have to see how political it actually gets.
Either way, we'll be watching. Alison Sargent with a look at the international headlines. That's it for now. Stay tuned. More headlines coming up in a moment.